You're in charge of you, and nobody else is. And nobody else can offer your vibration, and therefore nobody else is the reason for the mix of vibration that's going on within you. There are only two reasons that you feel the way you do. And those reasons are the perspective of your inner being and the perspective of you. And when you don't know that, and when you try to include the perspective of other humans who are fickle, we love them so much, and who are not consistent in the way they feel about most things, who don't owe it to you to be consistent about the way they feel about anything, even the way they feel about you. Shocking. You used to love me and I used to be happy, and now you turned your attention from me while you had breakfast. And just left me hanging out there with no support. You selfish breakfast eater. If you really loved me, you'd eat before I get up, so that when I get up, you can give me your undivided loving attention. And as long as I've got that, I'm good. And we say, no, you're not, because you're depending upon something that is always undependable. So in the moment you pronounce all other humans undependable to the way you feel, you'll feel so much better. Not at first. It takes you a while to wean yourself from their scanty help. But once you wean yourself from their scanty help, and in the process you realign with where the real help is, which is your inner being's perspective. So that brings us to something that we want to ask. Do you know you're an extension of source energy? And do you know that that source energy is always flowing to you and through you? And do you know that that source energy, we like to call the personal part of that source energy, personal and up close to you, your inner being. Do you know that your inner being is always, always, always aware of you and always loving you, no matter what? So when you feel guilt, it's not because your inner being stopped loving you. It's because you're looking at you differently than your inner being is. We're going to have some fun today. Our desire is that you become more deliberately, more purposefully, more in control by you of your relationship with your own inner being. It's our desire that in these hours that we are together, that you come away with a sense of your ability to focus yourself into alignment, and most of all, your willingness to let all other humans off the hook. Your relationships will improve so much when you feel, when you think and therefore feel and really mean that you're not holding anybody else in their opinion or in their behavior or even in their attention to you responsible for how you feel. That's truly where your freedom comes from. And if you're playing this game of life out in any other way, if you're holding anyone at any time responsible for how you feel, then for that period of time that you're doing that, you are not in control of your own life, of your own point of attraction. You're letting a flawed premise be your reason for offering your vibrations. So here's some basics and then off we'll go. The law of attraction is the powerful law that acknowledges the vibrational frequencies of all things, physical and not. And by not, we mean things that you can't translate through your physical senses. You can't see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it, but it's still there. The law of attraction manages all vibrational frequencies. It's the reason that when you tune your radio dial to a certain station, you hear what that station is broadcasting, because the broadcast frequency and the receiving frequency of your receiver are set at the same place. So you're that way with everything in the universe. Every person, every thought, every idea, every aspect of everything has a frequency. And when you focus into being and add emphasis to, sort of solidify a frequency. And when you do that, things that match that frequency then show up in your experience. It's the law of attraction. There's no law of assertion. No one can assert into your experience. But sometimes you think they are because you're giving them and what they think your attention. But it's your attention to them that is the attracting factor. They're not asserting anything into your experience. So when you finally get that, then you might want to start practicing what you're offering vibrationally. Recently, Esther got something from someone that she didn't really want to get from that person. And she didn't expect to get it from that person because she thought she had trained that person to be different than that. So when she got that from that person, it shook her up because made her realize that years and years of training had done nothing. Sort of a feeling of futility. And then, as she was in bed that night, she was thinking about it, and she wasn't really blameful toward that person as much as she was unhappy about how things had been going. And then a very clear thought in response to her finally very clear question came into her mind. And the thought was, hold the phone, wait a minute, there is no law of assertions, it's all attraction. So that means that person didn't assert anything into my experience. I attracted it. Oh, crap. That again. Hey, Abraham, I'm getting pretty tired of being responsible for each and everything that happens to me. And can't somebody else take responsibility for anything? Well, maybe they can, but it's not up to you to demand it, and every time you try, you get out of whack. So Esther concluded, after thrashing about for a few hours in the night, if there really is only attraction, then I did attract this. And then she realized that she was trying to control with her words while she was attracting something different. In other words, if I'm getting this, I must be expecting it. I must be expecting that. So I'm using words that say things like, I love you, when my vibration is, you're letting me down again. But Abraham, what if somebody really is letting you down? Then you're facing reality, not changing it. But Abraham, when does somebody else get some responsibility in this co-creative dance? Every single minute and every single day, everybody else has responsibility too, just nothing that you can do anything about with your words. Have you noticed how people don't behave? Oh, sometimes you can be strong enough with them, you can offer enough threats that they'll pretend to behave, but they're not really behaving, and the universe will keep showing you their lack of behaving, their lack of response to your words. So finally, you have to own it, that you attracted that even though you didn't want it. So the way you feel is about your own push-pull. My words say, I love you. My vibration says, you're letting me down. My words say, you're doing a really good job. My vibration says, oh, you could do so much better. My words say, everything in my world is perfect. My vibration says, what am I going to do with you? You see what we're getting at? If there's anything that's wonky in your vibration, and there is, and it's okay. If there's anything that's wonky in your vibration, this is what we're wanting to say to you. It hasn't got anything to do with anybody else. What's wonky in your vibration is your own push-pull. And at the heart of it is that we love you so much. Bless your hearts. You have come to the belief that you can control things with words. So you say things that you want to believe that you don't believe, but the universe always brings you exactly what you believe. Always. So bless the others for helping you know where your weak spots are, where you're not believing about what you want spots are. Have we put you into a state of depression? Because most of you would choose blame over self-introspection. It is a simpler thing to say, wait a minute, I didn't feel this way until I engaged with you about this. And since I didn't feel this way until I engaged with you about this, then it must be you. But it never is. It never, ever, 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 ever. This is going to take a while. Ever, ever. We're talking about each thing you got going on. Ever, 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 ever. It never, ever, ever, never, 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 ever. It never, ever, 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 ever is about them. It always is about you. You, only you, only you, only you. Crap. It's so much easier to make it about them until you get hold of, oh, you're an extension of source energy, and your source is with you in everything that you're experiencing. And as you're sifting through life and making your conclusions about what you prefer about this and that and this and that, you launch these rockets of desire, and your inner being rides those rockets and becomes vibrationally equivalent with the things that you have sifted from life and ascertained that you prefer. So your inner being always stays on the precise leading edge of what your life has brought you to become. And so the thing that you need to understand is that your life has caused you to become vibrationally more than you have caught up with, but your inner being is always out there on that leading edge with what you have become, which gives you the opportunity to use your emotional guidance system to catch up with what you have become. But instead of paying attention to what your inner being knows, which means feel your way to your path of least resistance, on your path of least resistance to what your inner being knows about who you have become, instead you so often look to another human who is so, in comparison with what we've just said to you, completely and utterly detached. And for you to use anything else as your guidance about where you are, when there's your inner being with you every step of the way, knows what you mean, knows what you saw, knows what you meant, knows what you launched, knows who you've become vibrationally, and stands there beaming a signal of who you are and what you want, which is the signal that when you come into alignment with it, you're going to feel frisky and full and fun and clear and empowered and in love. And instead you look to a human who could care less. You don't bring me flowers anymore. And so once you decide to establish a conscious relationship between you and your inner being, which means you decide to care about how you feel and own it when you don't feel good, and acknowledge that you not feeling good is about the push-pull in you, you're going to improve every relationship you have, because you're going to let them all off the hook. Can you imagine being up close and personal with someone, an employer or a lover or a parent or a child, anyone, a friend, having a relationship with someone who just wants to love you and isn't demanding anything from you to shore them up? They've already found out how to be whole, and now they are wholly living happily ever after and expecting you to do the same. And there's no competition, there's no power struggle, there's no game playing, there's no you are diminishing me, there's none of that stuff that never was anyway. That was always your disagreement with your inner being. Every time you act like, every time you present yourself as someone who is needy, you get crossways of your inner being who knows you aren't. That's like your inner being standing with a basket of everything you've ever asked for, and you pretending like the basket doesn't exist because your friend won't give you anything. And we say you're looking for your stuff in all the wrong places. You're looking for love in all the wrong places. You're looking for clarity in all the wrong places. Now, have we talked you into being antisocial? That wasn't our goal. We just want you to hook up with who you are and then play with each other, instead of looking for something that isn't there, and when you don't find it, then you're in a funk. Look for it where it is and find it, and then go play with others who have found it too. And when you look for connection and find it, you'll find others who have looked for it and found it, and then you'll be like this crowd here today. In other words, that's what this is really about. Oh, you're not all there, and you're not all there every time. Esther's not there all the time either. But we say for sure about Esther, when she's not there, she knows it. And when she's not there, she's not going to blame you for her not being there. And now we're wanting to help her not blame her for not being there either. It's okay to not be there. How can you be somewhere that you don't even know there's a place to be?